Okay, this story comes to us from Emily Flitter and Chris Kahn at Reuters. And they kind of really no surprise here. Uh, Supporters of U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump are more likely to describe African Americans as criminal, unintelligent, lazy, and violent than voters who backed some Republican rivals in the primaries or who support Democratic contender Hillary Clinton, according to a Reuters Lpsos opinion poll. Ahead of the November 8th election, to replace Barack Obama, the first black U.S. president, the poll also showed significant numbers of Americans in both the Republican and Democratic parties view blacks more negatively than whites, harbor anxiety about living in diverse neighborhoods, and are concerned with affirmative action policies discriminate against whites. Republicans in the survey expressed these concerns to a greater degree than Democrats, with Trump supporters presenting the most critical views of blacks. The poll conducted between March and June interviewed 16,000 Americans and included 21 questions on attitudes about race. It sought responses from voters who support Trump, the presumptive Republican nominee, Clinton, the presumptive Democratic nominee, and her rival, U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders. It also surveyed supporters of U.S. Senator Ted Cruz and Ohio Governor John Kasich, the last two Republican candidates to drop out of the race. Mr. Trump is an egalitarian who believes in supporting and protecting all people equally, said Stephen Miller, Trump's senior policy advisor, when asked about the poll. This is a stark contrast to Hillary Clinton, whose policies have been a disaster for African American and Hispanic citizens. A spokesman for Hillary Clinton declined to comment on the poll. Graphic on racial attitudes of presidential candidate supporters. Nearly half of Trump supporters described African Americans as more violent than whites. The same, wow, it's funny when they say that. The same proportion described African Americans as more criminal than whites, while 40% described them as more lazy than whites. So we built the country. We have seen more violence directed against our people and black people from whites than any other racial group on the face of the planet. these polls and stuff are laughable when they do them. In smaller but still significant numbers, Clinton backers also viewed blacks more critically than whites with regard to certain personality traits. Nearly one-third of Clinton supporters described blacks as more violent and criminal than whites, and one-quarter described them as more lazy than whites. Clinton is relying heavily on black voters to help her win the White House, and her victory over Sanders in the early state nominating contest was due in part to her overwhelming lead among African Americans. When asked about where they wanted to live, 36% of Trump supporters said, "I prefer to live in a community with people who come from diverse cultures," compared with 46% of Cruz supporters, 55% of Kasich supporters, and 70% of Clinton supporters. Trump supporters were more likely to be critical of affirmative action policies that favor minorities in school admissions or in hiring. Some 31% of Trump supporters said they strongly agree that social policies such as affirmative action discriminate unfairly against white people, compared with 21% of Cruz supporters, 70% of Kasich supporters, and 16% of Clinton supporters. To be sure, not all Trump supporters expressed negative attitudes about blacks. No more than 50% of his supporters rated blacks negatively, relative to whites, on any of the 6 character traits in the poll. Yet, when their answers to the poll questions were compared with responses from supporters of other candidates, Trump supporters were always more critical of blacks on personality traits. Analysis of the results showed. The trend was consistent in the data. Even when the results were filtered to include only white respondents to remove any impact that a different racial mix between Clinton and Trump supporters might play in the poll. The Trump supporters' views on affirmative action and neighborhood diversity do not necessarily reflect racial bias alone, said Michael Traggett, a polling expert and professor emeritus at the University of Michigan, who is not publicly supporting either Trump or Clinton. Rather, the results could also suggest anxieties about economic insecurity and social standing. Trump, whose supporters are mostly white, has promised to return manufacturing jobs to the United States, crack down on illegal immigration, and put out of global trade deals that he says have hurt American workers. The support for Trump is indicative of the support for the type of policies he is advocating, said Lawrence Brown, a professor at Morgan State University in Baltimore who writes about racism and has supported Sanders. Obama said in May that U.S. race relations have improved over the last 3 decades, but that significant work still needs to be done. Yeah, we're seeing that, President Obama, and some of that work should have been implemented by you, sir. But in any case, if you'd like to get more news, information, or updates, please subscribe to @yourblackworld.net. My name is Yurima Karama at Your Black World News.